All right, welcome everybody to the last day of school. So we're going to talk first about the final that's going to be on Wednesday during this class time. And then we're going to talk about your lab time for today, which is called Java Rainfall. So I picked this background here because we got a little bit of rainfall. It's also the last day of school, so we got this kind of like Christmas time's coming up. We got some hot cocoa and a fire burning, a little sleeping cat and stuff like that. I'm currently covered in cuts from where a sleeping cat clawed me. It's got very sharp teeth, or not teeth, claws rather. It goes right through your shirt. These guys are lethal, man. If I die of an infection, at least I want my tombstone to say "worth it" on the graveside. So I've put up some sample finals. Now the online final is going to be a little different from the in-person final, but basically the format's going to be the same. There's going to be a online test and it's multiple choice, and you have 2 hours. It's open book, open notes. Do not use ChatGPT. I will be highly, highly mad if you do. Just don't. You can Stack Overflow. You can look up anything you want. Just don't talk to other people. Don't use generative AI technologies. We got 4 different samples up here. And if I just pull up one of them at random here, all of these can be taken multiple times. I get asked this question every year, which is like, do I have to do the sample final? And I write back to the student, it's a sample final. And they say, oh, okay. So you don't know. They see the points and they get really excited, kind of like the 100,000 for the GGZ no Ray. But it is in a point category that is worth 0% of your grade. So get a high score, get a low score. It will not affect your overall grade in any way. Okay. So let's take a look at this. And what you'll see is these are basically, quiz questions that we've been doing all semester long. And so if you know what is upper is, if you know how to read things from a string, if you know how to do a for loop, how should we fix this for loop? It's supposed to print hello world 10 times, but it's falling into an infinite loop instead. And so basically, can you guys, what do you think? Can you solve it? Is it doable? What do you think? What's the answer here? Let me zoom in. You should know for loops well enough that you could do this like pretty much instantaneously. Okay? So yeah, it should be an I and less than 10, right? That should be an I. All right. So range-based for loops, question on software development, call it reference, what it does, range-based for loop, divisibility, even odd numbers, things like that come up a lot. Vectors. All of your competency exams are basically now up. I think I might be missing like one of them, but basically all of the competency exams are now up. If you can still go onto the server to try code, that's fine. You can go on the server, try it, whatever. A lot of times it's just not going to help. That's why these things are kind of like phrased this way, right? What's wrong with it is more than just like run it, So match a term with a definition, call by value, call by reference, call by const reference, a pointer. So pointer question, vectors versus arrays. This is a question I like to ask. I don't know if I'll do it again this year, but if you divide a float by an integer, do you get a float or do you get an integer? What do you guys think? If you divide a float by an integer, do you get a float or do you get an integer? Yeah, you get a float. Good. C-style arrays. This is probably the area that I'd recommend you guys beef up the most. Okay, because there will be questions on C-style arrays on the final, more than one. And that's probably the area where students are the weakest in this class. And so my advice is specifically to study the things that you're not supposed to use. Because when you don't use it, your brain knows that you don't use it. I know it was in the Zybooks, right? Like you guys all got familiar with doing arrays in the Zybooks, right? Because they had a lot of array-based things, right? Give me a response on chat here. Assuming you did the Zybooks. Yeah. So you should know it. The way your brain works, though, is if your brain knows it doesn't need to know something, it tends to throw it away. But it is, it is something you're supposed to know because, again, you're going to see code like this. If you look at the Bridges code, the Bridges code uses C-style arrays and pointers and things like that interchangeably. So if there's any area that I'd recommend you guys sort of bone up on and study hard for before the final, it's this. And I can guarantee you there's going to be at least 4 questions involving arrays on the final. So, JT Harlan, good job. So, that's if there's any takeaway from this final review session, study that. Okay, I've already got the questions already written. Let's see if I can take a look at it without revealing them. What monitor is this going to pop up on? Let me pause the recording. Okay, good. It popped up on this monitor over here. Okay. And or not. Classes, public and private. Gotta know that. Member functions, member variables, algebra, variables, an array, strings, you gotta know strings. Debugging. For loops inside of for loops. More strings with for loops. If statements and or not. It's all stuff. Yeah. Final's basically good to go. It's about done. I'm probably gonna write about 5 more questions, but it's almost done. And I would take the practice finals. You can take them as many times you want. That'll give you an idea of what kind of question I'm going to be asking. Not necessarily though. I mean, some of them are definitely different this year also. So, a lot of these questions are like higher level thinking. Like you can run this on the server, Olson. You can you can run it on the server. But like the server's not going to tell you what's wrong with it. You know what I mean? There will be no coding free response questions. I decided not to go with that. So it's going to be somewhere between 20 and 30 multiple choice questions. We'll see how the spirit moves me. Basically what I do is after I finish, I kind of go over it and I make sure I haven't skipped any topics. So there's good coverage over the entire semester. Okay. So much to do. Yeah, so I would definitely go over this too, where you have a for loop inside of a for loop. That kind of hurts a lot of people's brains. There's definitely questions. There's at least 2 like this on the actual final. Ands, ors, nots, comparisons, and then which one is the most annoying Pokemon? There's usually 1 extra credit question that I give. Free response stuff with debugging on the server is always your favorite. Yeah, it's true. Maybe I can add that next semester. But for this semester, it's going to be multiple choice. Mr. Mime is in fact correct. Good job. Okay, any questions about the final? There are 4 sample finals for you guys to take. Okay. So lots and lots of options. I think even this one, let me take a look at it. I think I even have a quiz bank for it kind of thing going on. Did I? Yeah. I know some of the sample finals actually have alternate versions of it, and I might do that for this final too, so that if 2 people who are friends take the final and are sharing their screen with each other, the questions will look very similar, but be slightly different. And so at first glance, you're oh, the answer is going to be C, and then the person copies it It puts down C, but it's actually different. It's actually D or something like that. So how does taking the final online work? The final will be taken online. I don't know how to tell you. It's like taking a quiz. So I was going to have you guys streaming it to me on Discord, but I've decided no, it'll just be like taking a quiz. Okay. So if you've been taking the quizzes all along, you know the rigmarole. You know how it works. Okay. So without further ado, that is the final. Yeah, there may be a couple more competency exams coming up. If you need to take 3 or take 4 for those, remember you have to go to the tutorial center and get a lesson, and this includes online, right? You have to get a lesson with one of the tutors on the topic that you need to take 3 or take 4 on. And the reason for this is because getting repetition of lessons is how you learn things, right? If you don't know something, then repeating it over and over again will drill it into your head. And remember that the tutorial center has limited hours and have limited tutors. And so every year, students will be like, hey, the quiz closes in 10 minutes. I need a tutor. And there's no tutors available. And then they can't take the test. So this is the kind of thing where you'll learn an important life lesson about time management if you try to wait to the very last minute for a tutor, because tutors have hours, and if you ask for a tutor outside of their hours, they'll probably tell you they're not working right now. So be really careful with that. You have to get a access code from a tutor, and to get that, you have to spend 15 to half an hour with them learning the topic. Okay, so don't slack on that if you need any of the competency exams. All right, so let me switch over to our second lecture.